Hey everybody! Welcome to the weekly news recap for the 22nd to the 28th of April 2024. And if you can't tell, I've just woken up. Alright, anyway. I know, try to contain your surprise. Right, moving on. So, into our updates section. Today, or not today, fuck's sake. I told you, I'm only just waking up. Anyway. This week, fuck. Sega had a trailer, showcase gameplay overview, whatever you want to call it. Hey, sleepy people. Hey, Melvin. How you getting on? Showing off Metaphor ReFantasio, which is their next kind of new IP from Atlas. It's been a while since Atlas kind of had a proper big JRPG IP. They've been mostly focusing on Shin Megami Tensei and Persona series up until now. So Metaphor ReFantasio is their new idea. As you can see, it is a third-person JRPG type thing. It doesn't seem like it's going to be a huge diversion from the Persona Shin Megami Tensei idea, but as you can see, they've really ramped up the production values. We're seeing mostly the overworld sections here. It does seem like it will share some enemy designs from the Shin Megami Tensei Persona series and so on. Debatable if it's set in the same universe or if it's a Final Fantasy type thing and there's just monster types are shared across the games, but they have nothing to do with each other. What's probably interesting to note, though, is it is not a turn-based game. It is an action RPG. It takes place in real time. You're controlling one character, and the AI takes care of the other characters. So they're learning something here from possibly their time with Persona 5. Not Scramble. Was it Scramble? Yeah, Persona 5 Scramble was their real-time Persona 5 game, which they worked on alongside Omega Force. I think Omega Force did most of the development on that, but the Persona team, Atlas team, would have been involved in it somewhat. Anyway, despite me being incredibly tired, I am actually really looking forward to this game. There's also a release date coming out for October 11th, so it's still quite a ways off. Still a lot of stuff to be told about it. But yeah, it's super stylish, just like a lot of Atlas's games. They really go over the top with their UI, and it is very much appreciated when a lot of games nowadays have the very basic UI, that looks like it could fit into any game. It's not styled to fit into the game proper. It's just, this could be just dragged and dropped into anything, and it just looks very basic and very minimal, and it's like, that's boring. Give me something cool and funky and stylish that I couldn't find in a mobile phone game, Anyway. So, October 11th, Metaphor ReFantasio. It depends. So last time when Persona 5 came out, I was considering Let's Playing it and so on. And Atlas, I'll just let that keep playing actually. Atlas put out this really confusing, really strict ruling around Let's Plays and streaming and so on. Now, I don't think anybody necessarily listened to them and just did it anyway, but I don't want to. So we'll see. We'll see if it's the same, if they've mellowed a little bit. Hopefully they have. Right. Anyway, moving on. All right, Karma: The Dark World. This was announced during Wired Productions' Wired Direct thing. They had a showcase thing. There was nothing particularly jaw-dropping during it, except for this game. Looked kind of interesting. I hadn't heard of it before. This is just newly announced, so there's a lot of stock footage at the beginning, so I'm just going to skip ahead on that. So this is kind of a 1984 even. The sequel was 1985. 1994, the George Orwell book. You're kind of dream diving as the kind of thought police. You're kind of jumping into people's thoughts, into people's dreams, and seeing if they're, foreign agents or that kind of thing. But shenanigans transpire, and now you're being haunted. You've got almost a Silent Hill situation. So really elaborate environments. It looks really interesting. Got kind of this idea of, is this still the real world? Am I still in somebody's head? Kind of thing. You're not really ever sure if you've actually left. Also, yeah, it's pretty gross. Anyway, it looks really trippy, and yeah, I'm kind of interested to play it. The way the trailer was shown off, I thought it was a VR title, and it might still be. There might still be like a VR port for it, but as far as I can tell, it is a standard, maybe not so standard, first-person horror scary time. So Karma: The Dark World. No release dates or anything like that. As you can see, it's coming to pretty much everything except the Switch, because there's no way the Switch can handle it, and also Nintendo would just say no. Anyway. An English Haunting. So an English Haunting is a kind of point and click pixel art adventure game. It's just kind of, yeah, I'm just kind of digging the art style. It reminds me a lot of the game we played recently, The Excavation of Hobbs Barrow, beginning of this year, I think, beginning of last year, possibly. Has it been that long? Anyway, I really liked that. It was a really kind of trippy horror point and click game, and I kind of want more of it. So this is kind of built mostly around like seances and hauntings in the Victorian times of England. It's not clear if it's a, kind of cheap, if you make a single mistake you just die immediately type thing, or if it's, like Sierra style adventure games, or if it's a bit, nicer about that kind of thing and just wants to scare you but not kill you immediately. Anyway, it's out pretty soon, May 15th, PC only for now. We'll see if it makes its way to consoles or anything like that later. Okay, we're done with the trailers for now. So, Wipeout developers launch new studio with futuristic sports game planned. So the developers from the original PlayStation 1 classic Wipeout have formed a new studio. So this is people who used to work on Psygnosis over in Liverpool that eventually became Studio Liverpool for Sony and then was shut down because Sony. Anyway, he's joined by co-creator of Wipeout Nick Burcombe and a Skate co-creator and former Horizon Call of the Mountain director Andy Santos. So there's, some decent pedigree there. The studio, now I thought this was kind of funny though, because the studio will focus on developing new IP with innovative gameplay, and then their first game will be House of Golf 2. 2 would suggest it's not a new IP. It would suggest it is a pre-existing IP, but okay. Unless they're doing the, Goat Simulator thing, where they just skip to, it's Goat Simulator 1, and then the sequel was Goat Simulator 3 for the laugh. Anyway. Outside of that, though, they have two other titles in development. A futuristic sports title, directed by Burcombe. Remember, Burcombe is co-creator of Wipeout. It's probably another Wipeout, but they haven't quite gone that far. There is a teaser trailer. I would show it, but there's just nothing. There's nothing there. It's just some guys in some futuristic sport armor suit things. I'd still say it's probably going to be Wipeout. And their other game is a strategy sci-fi roguelite action experience, which is all the rage right now. Whether it'll be all the rage by the time they get to it, who knows? By the time they release it, this is the issue with jumping on the bandwagon: is how long does the bandwagon last? When do the wheels fall off? Okay, this is more of a PSA for people who really want to get Ace Attorney games for cheap, because you have there's a time limit now. So Capcom is discontinuing the Ace Attorney Turnabout Collection on Steam. So the Ace Attorney Turnabout Collection is essentially Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trilogy, which is the first 3 games, and the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles were the ones where they kind of go back in time. So it's like 6 games. They're going to be discontinuing the bundle. The games themselves won't be discontinued. It's the bundle that puts the 2 games together. You'll be able to get them individually from then on. Anyway, you won't be able to do it after the end of May. But until then, it is on a steep discount. It's discounted by 67%. That is a considerable discount. Definitely, if you have not played the games and are interested in them, I would hop on it right away. If you happen to have one of them already and you don't want to buy the bundle, you just want to get one of the other ones, they're both on discount individually as well. But they won't be discontinued. They're just, I don't know, they're discontinuing the bundle that puts them together for some reason. Anyway. 3 Epic games this week. So we have 2 of them this week. Industria is first up. Industria is a first-person shooter that is sometimes thought to be just a cheap Metro. And Metro is thought to be a cheap Fallout. So it's like, how cheap are we getting here? Okay. Industria is a first-person shooter that takes you from East Berlin into a parallel reality. Shortly before the end of the Cold War, on the search for a missing work colleague, you decipher a dark past in a mysterious parallel dimension. So despite this kind of the trippy sort of sensibility to it. It's a shooter. Like that's kind of the main way you'll interact in the game. And from what I've heard, it is pretty good. I haven't played it myself. I have been thinking about it ever since I saw the trailer for Industria 2, and it's kind of been in my wish list for quite a while. Just been kind of thinking about when will I play it? When will I have time to actually get around to it? And well, it's free now, so whenever I want at this point, I guess. The other game is Lisa, the Definitive Edition. Explore Olath and unmask its twisted secrets with Lisa, the Definitive Edition, including the original narrative-driven RPG, Lisa the Painful, and its sequel, Lisa the Joyful. Seems like a really gory, like, side-scrolling adventure type thing. I've kind of seen Lisa the whatever in a lot of different places, and I don't know if it's actually good. I just see it kind of crop up a lot. It's Peggy 18 though for a pixel art game, so it must be incredibly gory. Anyway, those are your free Epic games. Right, moving on. Those are some of the games you can play soon. What if you wanted to play something right now? Well, you can play Stellar Blade, released on Friday. Stellar Blade is a action adventure RPG slasher type thing. So this is Sony's latest published thing. Again, it is not a first-party title, as Shift Up are not a Sony first-party property. So we still haven't seen a new Sony IP in quite a while. Anyway, so Stellar Blade is effectively Nier Automata again, but maybe not quite as philosophic and probably with a bigger ass. Anyway, we're gonna skip ahead to some actual combat gameplay. A lot of it, though, is, getting to know the denizens and how they interact with each other and how they go about living on this post-apocalyptic world, and then also, fighting really big, crazy monsters in high-octane combat and wearing questionable outfits. Does this trailer not have any gameplay in it? All right, anyway, Stellar Blade, it's Dark Souls, effectively, but maybe not as... It's not as punishing as Dark Souls. Right, moving on. Sandland. So Sandland is the other Akira Toriyama manga that people kind of forget about. R.I.P. Akira Toriyama. So Akira Toriyama, Dragon Ball, probably the one you know him the best from. He does have another manga series though, which is Sandland. It's set in this post-apocalypse thing. Everybody's kind of trundling about in these giant tanks. You have this weird demon, devil boy, child thing. It's kind of Waterworld. It's a little bit Waterworld, so it's people kind of looking for like the last bit of nature that might still be there, and going to war over it, kind of thing. But with like Dragon Ball humor and that kind of sensibilities and what have you. The gameplay kind of structures you around the various tanks that you move about in, kind of different mechs that you can call in or customize and so on, and get into fights with. Played the demo. Demo is fun. It is fun trundling about in your tank, even not in combat, just trundling about in general. It's quite enjoyable. Does it manage to hold all of that through the gameplay? I guess we'll see. But yeah, I think it's pretty cool. If you're interested in that and maybe not interested in Stellar Blade, you can probably check out Sandland instead. Came out the same day. Right, next up, Another Crab's Treasure. Another Crab's Treasure is a Souls thing, but crabs this time. So this is from the Aggro Crab team. Aggro Crab they make very humorous games. They make also very loose games. I would find, like, technically and so on. They're not buggy exactly, it's just some of the mechanics feel a bit floaty and the game can feel a little unfair. And in games that are Dark Souls-y type, where unfair means you're dead, I think it's a little mean. Anyway, I played the demo Another Crab's Treasure during the Steam Next Fest. It's fun, but yeah, it is very punishing, and I mean, it is a Souls game. It's very punishing, and then also it's not as technically tight as the Souls games. Usually in the Souls games, when you die, it's your fault. You made a mistake. It's not the game necessarily being unfair. Now, sometimes the game is very much unfair, but how to explain it? Within the rules of the game, it's unfair. It's not unfair, like, on a technical standpoint. You didn't dodge it didn't eat your input on the dodge and stuff like that. Another Crab's Treasure can kind of do that. On the other hand, another Crab's Treasure also has a bunch of options, tweaks, accessibility functions, and so on to make it a little more fair, such as giving you a gun. just here's a gun. It kills every enemy in one shot. You're just fucking sick of this boss. Just fuck off. Indiana Jones style. I'm fucking sick of this. Just go away. Which I think is hilarious. Now there's other like kind of less over the top tweaks. Just boost your health a little bit or reduce the enemy damage a little bit and so on. You can tweak it to your own comfort level. But I would give it a shot anyway, just because Aggro Crab have very good comedy sensibilities. Their last game, Going Under, was a parody of tech startups in the guise of a dungeon crawling roguelike kind of thing, and I was laughing my ass off the whole time playing it. Like, gameplay was a little frustrating, but I kept going back to it because it's like, it's just really funny. All right, anyway. Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes. So this is a spiritual successor to the Suikoden series of JRPGs. The Suikoden series is known mostly for its giant roster, its giant parties. They have just hundreds, and some of the games have 1,000 different party members for you to choose from. Lots of repeats and palette swaps and that kind of thing, which is, who the hell's going to manage to come up with 1,000 unique and compelling characters in time for a video game? It's just not going to happen. Anyway, Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes, as you might imagine from the title, there's 100 of them. They are pretty unique, pretty interesting kind of characters. Some of them are returning from their previous game, Eiyuden Chronicle Rising, which was actually a stretch goal as part of their Kickstarter. It wasn't necessarily intended to be made at the beginning, but they did make it. It was a much smaller game. It's a side-scrolling action brawler type thing, whereas this is a full-on JRPG. Anyway, reviews for the game have been a bit mixed. It does seem that people who are already big fans of the Suikoden series are like, yes, more Suikoden, love it. And people who are not, or didn't know what Suikoden was, or have never played a JRPG before, or anything like that, are a bit like, it's okay. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see how that plays out. I mean, from a production value standpoint, I just want to play it because it looks gorgeous. How well the combat plays, you can see the combat gets very messy. That's kind of where the Suikoden issue comes in, because you have a lot of shit going on all at once. Anyway, we'll see. I'm interested. Alright, Tales of Kanzera Zhao. Tales of Kanzera Zhao is a Metroidvania side-scrolling thing set in a kind of African-inspired... I'm going to show my ignorance, I'm not sure where specifically in Africa it's pulling its inspiration from. But yeah, Metroidvania, it's... Of course I'm going to play. Anyway, I did play it during the Steam Next Fest. I did think it was very good, if a little clunky. See if it has firmed itself up since then. On the other hand, if you are a PlayStation Plus subscriber, it is launched day one into PlayStation Plus, so you won't have to pay anything additional. I think it's the same for Game Pass. I am not sure. I will have to check. And then I think it's also on Switch and PC. But obviously there's no subscription services for those. Anyway, there's a lot of fucking new releases this week. Is this the last one? No, there's one after this. Okay, Saga Emerald Beyond is another... it's not really a spiritual successor to the Saga series. It's a sequel. Saga is another JRPG series that kind of has been lost to time. Square Enix has decided to resurrect. I've never played any of the Saga games, so I don't really know what their deal is. I think they're like a time travel-y type thing, but I'm not 100% sure on it. Also not sure if this is turn-based or real-time or anything like that. So I haven't actually looked into it too much, but it was more of a case of a new Saga game. I know their stories aren't necessarily connected to each other, so you can kind of just jump in wherever. And this is not a fully priced game. It's like $29.99 or $39.99, something like that. So it's on the cheaper end. Kenji Ito's in there as composer from the Nier series. Yeah, I'll give it a shot. I didn't see any actual gameplay there, other than the running around parts. I didn't see any of the combat bits, but anyway. All right, last one. Phantom Fury. This is a PC-only release. So Phantom Fury is a loose sequel to Ion Fury, which used to be called Ion Maiden until Iron Maiden got involved and had them change the name, which is a shame because it's a better name. But anyway, Phantom Fury follows Shelley Bombshell Harrison, I think is her name. She's effectively female Duke Nukem. So... Not well, she wouldn't be misogynist. What's the opposite? Misandrist, I guess? I don't know. Anyway, no, it doesn't mean she hate men. Duke Nukem loves women. What's the... Is there a word for women who love men? I don't know. Anyway, heterosexual, I suppose. Anyway, whatever. It's... So, Ion Fury was more of a Duke Nukem build engine, pretty standard first-person shooter, back in the day kind of thing. Phantom Fury is a little bit more Half-Life. There's a lot of little, like, kind of tweaks and interactions and stuff like that. A lot of just stuff that you can do and mess around in that actually has nothing to do with the game, which is very Duke Nukem. Now, Duke Nukem was, as well as it's known for its comedy and other things, it was also very well known for its just shit you could do in the game that has nothing to do with the game whatsoever. You just mess around with stuff. And Phantom Fury is kind of going for that end of things. It's also going for a little bit of the Half-Life physics, puzzles, elements kind of stuff. But it is very much a first-person shooter, so don't go in expecting, very deep RPG stuff or, really brain teaser puzzles that you might have seen in some of the Half-Life games. It's a shooter. That's its deal. Anyway, again, I've seen mixed reviews on this. Some reviewers feel that it spent more time on its weird interactions than it did on the game itself, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I don't know. I guess we'll see. I have played the original. The first game, Ion Fury, it was okay. It wasn't amazing, but it was decent. I liked it overall. There's definitely parts of it that I did not like. I did not like teeny tiny enemies that trying to shoot them with a controller is almost impossible. It's almost like it wasn't balanced for people who use a controller. It's like they expected you to have a keyboard and mouse. But anyway, this is PC only this time around, so they can at least somewhat expect you to have keyboard and mouse. Somewhat. Anyway, unfortunately, though, it is now time to talk about the worst part of video games, video game industry. So, Take-Two wins lawsuit against tattoo artists. So I was supposed to move these around so that bigger stories were at the front, but I didn't do that because, again, sleepy. So these are going to be in a weird order. Anyway, so this is actually it's like the one time I'm on the side of Take-Two. I know. The hell is frozen over. Pigs are flying. Dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria. But yeah, Take-Two has won its lawsuit against tattoo artist Jimmy Hayden, who claimed that the reproduction of his artwork on LeBron James, the tattoo, constituted copyright infringement, and luckily the jury were like, no, fuck off. The jury basically said Take-Two had a license to use LeBron James' image. The image de facto includes any tattoos he has on him, so go away. Which is, of course, the correct response to this. And I thought this would have been, slam dunk. Why wouldn't this be a thing? How did it even get this far? How was it not thrown out in the first place? But no, the reason it wasn't thrown out in the first place is because this has happened before, and the Take-Two were found liable for it. So there's 2 other times Take-Two have been taken to court. That's a lot of tease. Over tattoos kind of thing. So tattoo artist Catherine Alexander won her own case against Take-Two in 2022. She did some tattoo work on Randy Orton, wrestler for WWE 2K, and that wasn't considered fair use, and they did have to pay her. Now, to be fair, they did not pay her a lot. It was only like $4,000. I mean, that's a lot for a single tattoo, but for a copyright infringement case, that's actually very little. And the second time they were taken, that was the second time. The first time they were taken, Solid Oak Sketches filed a lawsuit in New York for similar reasons. and it was found that it was fair use, so they didn't win that. So yeah, there's basically the precedent is that it's been both upheld and not upheld, so they had to do it again. But otherwise, I feel like it would have been thrown out anyway. As it stands, it's now 2-1 for it's fair use to reproduce tattoos, because obviously it's so dumb. Why wouldn't this be the case? It would be different if it was a create a character thing, right? And you could then use that tattoo in the create a character mode, then you would have grounds for it. You'd have to reproduce the artwork to show it to the player. When it's just photogrammetry in the person, no. That's their skin. Just like it's silly. Anyway, moving on. 7 Days to Die exits early access after a decade. Well, that's bad enough, but console players have to buy the game again. Nice. So, 7 Days to Die is a zombie survival horror. Sorry, zombie open world survival thing. It's not survival horror. Whatever. I mean, 10 years ago when they started making it, it was kind of fresh. Now, so many of them. Anyway, moving on. It was in early access in 2013. If you remember all the way back then, because it's a while ago. Oh god, psychic damage. Anyway, it's been a while. Early access wasn't a thing then. It only became a thing, became a thing that year, but not when 7 Days to Die launched. There's somewhat pre-early access, but I think they were grandfathered into it. Anyway, it's finally leaving early access with its 1.0 update. But why is it in the industry bullshit section? Anyway, we'll get to that. The reason it is in why it's in the industry bullshit section is part of this new 1.0 launch. The price of 7 Days to Die goes up to $45, which is another $10 on top. It's currently on sale. If you want to jump into that for only $6, I don't know why you would. It's zombie survival. Fall asleep. I'm already asleep. Even more asleep. Double asleep. Anyway, what's going on with the console port? So the console port is having some shenanigans. So the devs explained what was going on with the console port. Basically, the console version of 7 Days to Die was not developed by the current developer of 7 Days to Die. It was developed by Iron Galaxy and then published by Telltale Games. Now, you haven't seen what the issue is, what's coming up. And not just because I've highlighted it as the next thing. Anyway, Telltale Games went bankrupt in 2017, so obviously there is now an issue with the publishing rights. So because of that, the console port didn't get any updates since. It's effectively been abandoned by the Fun Pimps, as the current developer is called. Even after the studio got control of the port. So they've had control of it since 2019. They've had the publishing issue sorted out. They have full ownership of the console version now, as well as PC version. Even with all of that, they still never updated the console version. So the question is, are they going to update it for 1.0? Now that it's done, it's out of early access, the game's complete. You going to update it now? No. No. Buy it again. Basically, is their approach to it. A new version of 7 Days to Die is coming to consoles a few weeks after the PC launch. If you have the old version, just throw it in the bin, because it's worthless now. It does, however, plan to offer a discount to owners of the previous versions. But it did confirm that players will have to rebuy the game. Their excuse for it is that there are significant technical differences between old and current console hardware. It's a PS4 game. It's basically a PC in a box. Okay. Anyway, this has elicited mixed reactions from the community, as you might imagine. So kind of the issue, obviously, from both sides of it is, oh, of course, why wouldn't they want to, make more money out of this? People thinking, it's not their fault, Telltale went bankrupt and so on. Fine, apologists. The opposite side of it, of course, is that you have had ownership of this since 2019. You've continued to sell it on the store since then, making money off of it, knowing full well you had no intention of ever supporting it outside of the 1.0. That's just been extremely shady work. But more on top of that is that they plan to offer a discount to owners of those previous versions. If you already have some way of knowing who owns the previous version, why can't you make that discount 100%? i.e., free. Why can't you do that? They've already bought it. You got their money. Is it because you just want more money? Is it greed? It's greed, isn't it? Of course it is. Anyway, if they have some way of being able to give a discount to previous versions of the thing, that means they know who the previous versions of the game are, which means they could give them a 100% discount. But they're not going to. Anyway, we have more of that shite in a minute. We'll get back to it. ESA lawyer frets about some sort of terrifying online arcade if preservation is made easier. So this is coming out of a government hearing currently going on in the US. This is between a bunch of video game preservation groups, the Video Game History Foundation, Software Preservation Network, the Rhizome Project, and a bunch of other ones, versus essentially the ESA, which is the Entertainment Software Association, which is what a bunch of the bigger video game publishers are kind of umbrellaed under as a lobbying group. So it's Microsoft, it's Ubisoft, EA, Sony, Nintendo. They're all under there as a US lobbying umbrella kind of thing. Anyway, so the idea is on the preservation side of thing, they want there to be a carve out in the DMCA so that they can make video games available for research purposes. So people who are researching, studying video game history, video game art, and whatever have access to historic video games to study them and learn from them and what have you in a kind of library sort of situation. And of course the ESA are like, no, just no, that's it. No particular reason, just no. Anyway, DMCA exemption that would allow researchers to access games in libraries and archives. The ESA legal representative said no combination of limitations would support to provide remote access. So they basically say no. There's literally nothing you can do that would have us support remote access of our games for free. Apparently coming down on the idea that we're likely to see a situation like the online arcade that I've been warning about for the last several proceedings. There's some idea that, oh god, the public might have access to our video games. They may not pay for it. Oh no, how terrible. How restricting it would be to have to go to a library, check it out, and so on, but fuck's sake. Anyway, proposed exemption, according to England, the ESA guide, doesn't prevent users from just lying or libraries providing a simple checkbox to say that they're a researcher and just then use the games for recreational play. Spoilers, it doesn't really stop you from doing that anywhere. Anybody can lie on anything. But we didn't do away with libraries entirely for that purpose. Anyway, the ESA's main concern here is widespread public access to video games. The proponents did aim to alleviate by suggesting a bunch of kind of special collections models that are used in libraries for things that have restricted use or have IP concerns or anything like that. There are already things in place for film, for books, for recorded media and stuff like that. It does exist. There's no reason video games couldn't go under the exact same thing, but no. Attempts previously made by the Library of Congress were halted by the ESA, which said it'd rely on publishers to take care of those efforts themselves. So they don't want the libraries responsible for the security. And they don't want to be responsible for it either. So they're just no. We're just not going to play ball here at all. We don't care. We want money. That's it. That's all that's happening here. This will be harming scholarships and teaching because there might be an interest in recreational play. It doesn't feel fair to those who put a lot of effort into making those works available. Now, appealing to the fairness in a legal hearing is probably not going to get you very far. I mean, he's right, I agree, but there's no real legal standing for doesn't seem fair. It doesn't really work. I agree with him, but yeah, you're not going to get very far. Last year, the VGF Video Game History Foundation put out a study revealing that 87% of games made before 2010 are out of print. That's pretty much every PS1 game, PS2 game, maybe PS3. We're kind of scaling into that, and the equivalent, Xbox, Nintendo, PC, and so on. That's a lot of games. That's a lot of video game history that you effectively have no access to, unless you already have the game, or want to buy it off eBay, or find a collector who's willing to sell it, and so on. These are the games that were never made digitally, or a version of them were never made digitally, or accessible on PC, so on. just gonna be disappeared. You know, CDs, DVDs, Blu-rays, they have a shelf life. They do eventually stop working. Same with cartridges for, you know, even older Nintendo, Super Nintendo stuff. VGF co-founder Frank Cifati said that no one is against the idea of video game preservation, but companies and their shareholders are against the idea of not making a profit. Yeah, so they're all for, yeah, preservation's fine, just pay us an exorbitant amount of money. And they're expecting this money from libraries that, yes, historically have a lot of money to hand to spend on this kind of thing. Anyway, Embracer CEO is full of excuses. So this is news coming out earlier this week that the Embracer Group, you may recall, they're the company that went $2 billion further into debt. They were already in debt, then went even further into debt, had to lay off a sizable chunk, close to like 2,000 people, shuttered a bunch of studios, and basically just shit themselves for a solid year, 2 years maybe. I think CEO thinks maybe he's a little bit to blame. Just a smidge, tiny bit. Anyway, following the company's unprecedented studio acquisition spree, it was then dropped into massive debt, and the company is now planning to split itself up into 3 different companies. So it's effectively going to focus on mobile, AA games, AAA games. That's kind of the deal. I forget the names of the specific studios. The only one I remember, because it was so stupid, the AAA one is going to be called Middle Earth and Friends Group. I wonder what kind of games they're going to make. Anyway, there's a bunch of interviews from CEO Lars. But he claims that you shouldn't blame Embracer's collapse on the company buying up multiple studios too quickly over the last few years without any real game plan. No, definitely don't blame that. Don't blame the spending all the money you didn't have for the studio or for the Embracer Group collapsing. Why would you do that? Anyway, he decided to provide some other excuses. We had a number of years, 2019, 2020, where the cost of capital was really cheap. The credit rating was effectively 0. You could take loans out for free, effectively. And the willingness from investors to invest into growth. This is already disgusting, but here we are. He also had a game market booming, especially during COVID, and I don't know why they all assumed it would just keep booming. COVID was going to go away eventually, or we would get a handle on it to the point that it wouldn't be an issue anymore. Why would you think that would change? I don't understand. The reason it was booming is because everyone was locked up. We had nothing else to do. We're playing video games. That's why it was booming. Anyway, the CEO also blamed bad games and consumers not wanting to buy said bad games. Yes, blame the consumer. That's the reason. The reason isn't that you spent more money than you actually had and over-leveraged yourself with your free loans and then didn't think something would end afterwards. That's not the reason. No. Am I out of touch? No. It's the consumers who are wrong. Anyway. So now, the Embracer name is going away, not because people despise the company, no, just so they can have a fresh start or some other corporate garbage. There's a quote here from him trying to set a record for the most buzzwords in a single answer. These name changes are strategic decisions aimed at allowing each new entity to develop its own unique brand identity tailored to its specific business focus and to maximize its potential in the market. Did he say anything in that sentence? Anyway, as a leader and an owner, sometimes you need to take the blame and you need to be humble about it if you've made mistakes and you could have done something differently. Sometimes you need to take the blame. Notice he has not actually taken the blame. He's just stating that sometimes you need to take the blame. He's not saying I'm to blame. He didn't actually say that. He very much talked around it and gave the impression that that's what he said. I'm sure I deserve a lot of criticism. Again, he didn't say I deserve criticism. He said, I'm sure I do, but isn't taking it. But I don't think my team or companies deserve all the criticism. No, you do. Anyway, I could take a lot of that blame myself. I could. I'm not going to, but I could. Like, he's very much talking around the idea of taking blame here. Anyway, when asked by Games Industry Wingafors about any mistakes he had made, he declined to offer any specific answer and instead referenced a long list of things. So yeah, this is like someone coming to you when they've upset you or said something or done something to upset you and them saying, I'm sorry. and then you asking them, what are you sorry about? And they don't know. You know, even after you've told them. Actually, even further, this is when you have told them specifically what they did, and they still say, I'm sorry. And you ask them, what are you sorry about? And they're like, nothing specifically. I just want you to not be mad at me anymore. Anyway. He stood by the company's overall strategy, despite saying he deserves a lot of criticism. I could take a lot of the blame, but not actually taking any blame, yada, yada, yada. It sure sounds like he just wants people to forget about this whole shitstorm. But he stands by the strategy. The strategy that costed a lot of money, saddled it with debt, led to numerous layoffs, ultimately caused it to be split into 3 different companies that now exist under one holding company that is unable to use the Embracer name because it's connected directly with failure. That strategy. That's the one? That's the one you stand by? Okay, good to know. Not only on top of that, but the man behind that strategy is going to continue leading the new version of Embracer. So yes, if he was truly interested in taking the blame, he would resign. Anyway, in further games preservation issues, Gary's Mod Studio is removing 20 years of Nintendo uploads following DMCA takedowns. So, yeah, this isn't great. This is the Nintendo cease and desist, search and destroy missile at work. It's kind of interesting that they waited 20 fucking years to do this, but okay. So if you're not familiar, Gary's Mod is effectively a suite of mod tools where people can upload character models, art assets, environmental stuff, anything really, and kind of play around with it in a sandbox, just doing whatever. And it's a lot of the time it's used to just take silly pictures or just do silly videos and that kind of thing, and porn. It's used for porn as well, obviously. Anyway, all the Nintendo content that has been uploaded to the game since its original inception in 2004, psychic damage, okay, is now in the process of being removed. There's some who speculated that maybe this was a troll or a series of trolls trying to, you know, just fuck with Gary's Mod and claim ownership of an IP they don't actually have ownership for. But no, they've done their due diligence and they're like, this is coming from Nintendo themselves. It's not a mistake. This is not a mistake. The takedowns came directly from Nintendo. They don't want you playing with that stuff in Gary's Mod. They're claiming, honestly, this is fair enough. This is Nintendo's content and what they allow. Yeah, no, I disagree. It is their content, but once you've bought it, it's yours. That's the way it's supposed to work. If I buy a toy and I'm playing with it and I want the toy to interact with another toy, Nintendo can't say, no, I don't want you interacting with that toy. Or I don't want our toy interacting with that toy. It's like, no, it's mine now. I'm gonna do whatever I want with it. Fuck you. That's where I'd come down on it. On the other hand, Gary's Mod is doesn't exactly have a lot of money to hand, and Nintendo have a lot of money to hand. So, plus it's DMCA, they do have to comply with it. Whether they can put it back up later, we'll see. Anyway, on the suggestion that the DMCA takedowns request didn't actually come from Nintendo, or instead the work of trolls trying to falsely demand ownership of an IP, Gary Newman of Gary's Mod, the man himself, came back to say, I've been assured that the takedowns have been verified by Nintendo as legit, so this will now continue as planned. Soz. For the part of the community themselves, some have already made it available somewhere else other than Steam. I'm sure you can figure out where that is. Moving on. Alright, as I said, we were going to come back to some shenanigans around money and that kind of thing. So, Escape from Tarkov PvE mode exclusive to pricey Unheard edition despite promises of free DLC. So, here's again them trying to walk back their earlier promises about making things available to people who bought in early. Essentially fucking over your longest fans. And biggest spenders as well, for that point. But anyway... So Escape from Tarkov, the extraction FPS, it's been going on for quite a while. As far as I could tell, it's one of the first extraction FPSs anyway. They announced and recently put up for pre-order the Unheard edition. The price of this bundle, which includes a new mode, a bigger stash, a bunch of other shit, $250. $250. That's one game. Okay. Now, the price alone, apparently, is not at issue. I really feel like you should be taking issue with the price, guys, but No, that's not the only part that's kind of pissed people off and is having some of them consider a lawsuit. The issue is that the Unheard Edition is the only way to access the new PvE co-op mode. No other way to access the PvE stuff. You have to buy this edition of the game. This is despite players previously shelling out a lot of money for what was pitched as access to all subsequent DLC as part of the now delisted Edge of Darkness edition, which similarly had a pretty significant price tag on it. But the idea was, if you bought it, you just got everything from now on. Everything. All the DLC from then on. Cool. You're in there now. You don't have to worry about spending any additional money on the game. Any new DLC, you'll get access to it. Features of the Unheard Edition are considered paid advantages or paid to win. That's also an issue that's at stake. I'm not going to try to understand what some of these perks are and how they affect the game. I've never played the game, but I will take them at their word that they're considered paid advantages. Games that have escape from in the title give me anxiety unless they're followed by Monkey Island. Just put that in from Dick Rubin. I mean, Escape from Monkey Island also gives me anxiety if I have to think about the fucking monkey combat section again. Jesus Christ. Anyway, the issue around the promise of future content being included in the previous expensive edition, players that already own the Edge of Darkness will receive a $150 discount on Unheard. That means you still have to pay $100 for something you were supposed to have already paid for. You don't think that's a problem? Right. So, how are they, sidestepping this issue of, you said we'd get all DLC for free forever? And we took you at your word because this is a business agreement and we paid you. So now it's a contractual agreement and now you're reneging on it. So how are they sidestepping it? This isn't DLC? This doesn't count as DLC apparently. It ain't DLC. It's unique feature of the new edition added. DLC means additional downloadable content. Please point me to the additional part of the DLC. Where does it say additional? It doesn't. It says downloadable. Is it downloadable? Guess what? It's downloadable content. No. DLC apparently now means additional downloadable content. PvE is a feature and a game mode. Just because you all want it to become DLC, it wouldn't mean it is one. It's a feature game mode for the new edition of the game. No. It's DLC. It is. And maybe you don't want it to be DLC, but it definitely is. We're going down a slippery slope now of DLC starts to mean just whatever the people charging for it want it to. Yeah, that's kind of an issue they're going to have down the line. I mean, look, we'll see how this transpires. Will they actually go ahead with a class action on this? It's a lot of money. They would have paid a lot of money to get the game initially. Like, it would have been a similar 200 and something, whatever. And the discount is kind of a slap in the face. If you're willing to give them a discount anyway, just give them the full discount. Which would be for free, and then you would still be, fulfilling your contractual obligations. We're going back again to the 7 ways to die, guys. Just, if you can already give them a discount, just give them the full discount. Stop trying to just get a little bit of money. Just a smidge. Just give me a taste. You've agreed. This was the agreement. The agreement with Early Access was you get everything. The agreement with the Edge of Tomorrow, whatever the hell it was called, edition, was they get everything. Moving on. Alright, what's going on in the community? Fallout London. Right, Fallout London's former release date passes by. Its lead laments the effects of Bethesda's apparent next-gen update silence. So, Fallout 4 got a next-gen update for PS5, Xbox Series, and so on. And this has massively clashed with the Fallout London mod, which was a full conversion of Fallout 4. As you might imagine, a full conversion means they're going to affect literally every single part of the game. So if Bethesda decides to completely change every part of the game, that's obviously going to have some issues with the mod. So they had to push back on the release. They don't really know when it's going to come out now. It's kind of up in the air. Its release date is now up in the air due to the Fallout 4's next-gen update. So we don't really know what's going to happen here. When is it going to come out? Is it going to come out? What they have said is they're not planning to release it for the old version of Fallout. Because they just don't want to have to support something that vast majority of people won't be able to play or won't have any interest in playing. Why wouldn't they want to be playing the very latest all bells and whistles Fallout 4? So they're not going to be doing that. They are going to continue working on it, but whether or not is, are they still going to want to? Anyway, the kind of gist of this article is the mod team kind of being somewhat frustrated that Bethesda just wouldn't talk to them about their plans for the update, so that they could, see ahead of time how this would affect them. Would it affect them? How badly would it affect them? So they could plan and so on. But Bethesda just weren't interested in talking to them. So Bethesda's apparent lack of communication with the mods team regarding the update. The only correspondence the team would get was via the community manager, and they were all to say that yes, the community manager was valuable, it was good to speak to them, but really we needed to speak with somebody with more intimate knowledge of what the update would entail. The devs, effectively. They would have needed to talk directly with Fallout 4's developers. And that's not really something, for good reason. Now, for good reason, development teams and publishing teams and so on do have a community manager for this, largely this exact reason, is to keep that distance between them, because you guys can't be trusted. You do the harassment and shit, you do the death threats and all that kind of thing, so this is your own fault. But on the other hand, there should be some avenue for being able to talk to them. Anyway, you would think that they would have at least had a conversation with us to just be like, look, you guys are clearly at least notable. You're not official, but let's make sure we don't ruin this for the fans. Again, it's probably a little bit naive for the mod team, but it's maybe an acceptable position to take, but I do feel it's a little naive. Anyway, this has now caused us to delay, which hurts a lot of our team and our hard work for the past 4 years, and it's let down a lot of fans. As a result, what we've seen from the sort of backlash from the delay announcement videos that people are blaming Bethesda. We asked them not to, but I think it's inevitable when there's that lack of communication. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of this could have been avoided, or at least planned for, or messaged early and so on, without people having to get, super hyped for this thing, only for it to be rug pulled in the last couple of days. Because remember, the Fallout 4 update was only really announced when the TV show aired, which wasn't that long ago. And the Fallout London, whatever it's called, mod conversion thing, had been announced a good while ago. They were trying to drumming up hype for it. There've been a good few articles about it, only for them to have to say, well, we can't fucking release it now because it'll just break. Anyway, no conversations have been had regarding Fallout London possibly becoming part of something like the Creations Initiative. The Creations Initiative is Bethesda's, official mods, where they mark these things as these are official mods from Bethesda. We recognize them as, such and such, and they get kind of pushed into the creation section that you might see on some of their games. There's been no talk about Fallout London becoming that. Possibly this may have been a way to increase the collaboration between the teams, but at the end of the day, the Fallout London team would feel that Bethesda wouldn't be comfortable with the mod's content. Fallout London, from previous articles at least, there would have been ghoul versions of the royal family and stuff like that. So it's possible Bethesda would be like, we probably can't do that. That probably wouldn't look too good for us. Whereas this is a mod team of unknowns. They can do whatever they want. Anyway. Yeah, I mean, this just kind of highlights that at the end of the day, the bigger studios just don't really talk to the community outside of buy our stuff. And have you bought our stuff yet? Why haven't you bought our stuff yet? Why aren't you buying our stuff right now? It's just that end of it. And, don't give us death threats. That's the other side. Don't stop doing that bit. Anyway, the mod team isn't planning on just releasing the mod in its current form for an older version of Fallout 4. The only exception seemingly being the unlikely event that they literally can't release it for the updated version. They're not expecting it that they'll be in a position where there's no way to unleash it, but maybe. It could happen. Anyway, we'll leave Stellar Blade to play in the background. Anyway, that is your news for the 22nd to the 28th of April, 2024. Metaphor Refantasio looks it looks really good. I'm quite looking forward to it. October 11th. Karma, the Dark World, again, looks pretty trippy. Some really interesting visuals. I was honestly a little disappointed it wasn't a VR game. Now, there's nothing in their marketing or anything that suggested it was a VR game. I purely, just from the way the trailer was presented, I assumed it was a VR title, but no, it's not. It's a shame. I'm disappointed myself with my own expectations. But anyway, it still looks good. I'm still interested to play it. Um, Studio Liverpool team or the Wipeout team, possibly getting another shot at Wipeout, even though it won't be called Wipeout, it'll be called Outwipe or something. So that sounds bad. Whatever they decide to end up calling it, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Now that Sony have decided they don't care anymore. Industry bullshit wise, there certainly are a lot of small indie teams deciding to go all in on the greed side of the industry, which is not a good look. Not a good look, guys. 7 Ways to Die people, the Escape from Tarkov people who would have benefited massively from the community, from word of mouth, from people going in early, giving them their money, giving them their confidence in their game, only to turn around and shaft the people who were there at the beginning, who were like your biggest fans. Why? 'Cause money? That's it? Doesn't matter? Just give me money? It's not a good look, guys. It's not a great look. Anyway, the ESA standing in the way of game preservation, it's not surprising. You know, they are a lobbying group for the biggest publishers in video games, and the biggest publisher in video games are very much captured by investment, Wall Street, hedge fund people. They only care about money. It's a big disease all going on around there. Big brain disease, just give me money. Don't care about anything else. Anyway, that's it for our news, but what's happening over on the channel? Well, we have our game card, our big wall of games for 2024. Not a huge change here. The only real difference is Resident Evil 0 and Final Fantasy 4 have finally started. We actually finally started them this week. So we're beginning playing through those. Resident Evil 0, potentially we will finish it next week. No, we will definitely finish it next week. It's a question of just when we will finish it. Final Fantasy 4, that's not finishing next. Maybe. I get enough turns at it when possibly we'll finish it next week, but I doubt it. Anyway, off stream, I have been playing a lot of Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Really enjoying it. It's really good Metroidvania, Prince of Persia style game. Very fluid, it's very fast. There's not huge many issues I have with it. The only real issue I have is it's a little frustrating. Some of the enemies have too much health. I feel they have too much health, and I would rather they had less health. Also, to be fair, there are options for you to tweak it so that, you know, you can give enemies less health, you can give yourself more health, you can have them do less damage, and so on, what have you. Maybe I should just do that instead of being annoyed that they have so much health. Anyway, other than that, combat is fun. Exploration is probably the most interesting part of it. The movement of the prince, he has a lot of movement options, and making your way through the environment with those movement options is a lot of fun. Yeah, I've been playing a lot of that, and that was the reason I wasn't playing Final Fantasy 4 yesterday. It's because I just want to keep playing Prince of Persia. That's what was happening. Anyway, next week we will have the schedule. It hasn't changed a huge amount. Wednesday is once again a no stream day because I will be playing, or at least plan to be playing, D&D with some friends. So Resident Evil Tuesday and Thursday. Honestly, I don't think it'll spill into Thursday. I think we'll finish it on Tuesday. I don't think we have too much left. I'm going to put it there on the off chance that we don't, and I do have to actually play more on Thursday, but I'm hoping not to, because if I do, I feel like it's going to be an hour at best, 30 minutes maybe. And that's not great. I don't want to do a 30-minute stream. That's kind of shit. So chances are this will be something else. I might make it Final Fantasy 4. So we might just do Final Fantasy 4 in a row. Possible. That's why I said we might actually finish it. But either way, Final Fantasy 4 will be Friday and Saturday. So yeah, this might change. But if anything does change, it's just only going to be Thursday. I don't know what it'll be. Change it to something else. Very short Thursday stream. You'll be like, hey, how's it going? Credits. Say goodbye. The stream will be over before anybody even gets the notification. That's what will happen. Okay. No, we'll have to put something else in there. We haven't done a Fully Fable in a bit, so I will probably sub one of those in at some point. I'm trying to not add a new big game before System Shock. The System Shock is going to be a pretty big game. And that's out end of May or so. So Start with Resident Evil, and then it just then finish Final Fantasy all at the same time. Just go straight into it. Just annoy everybody. All right. Yeah, I don't know. We do System Shock when that comes out on console. It's out on PC already, but Steam Deck is just, yeah, it won't do it. It just doesn't want to. It's not that I won't play it. It's just I would rather play it on at least 1080p, 60 frames per second. You know, I would rather do that, not 720p at maybe 30 frames per second if you're lucky. Anyway, that is going to be it though from me for today. So next week, Tuesday, maybe Thursday, but I doubt it, Resident Evil 0. Friday and Saturday, Final Fantasy 4, and Sunday we'll be back around for the weekly news recap. Right. Thank you for joining me. Big thanks to Melwin as well. Keep me company. I will be back on Tuesday, Resident Evil 0. Melwin is playing Lake, I think, later on today. Are you doing a midday one, or are we waiting till the evening? But either way, I will be back for Resi and then Final Fantasy 4. System Shock some stage in May. Some Foley Fable in between. I'm not sure yet. I haven't decided yet if we're going to do Resi 5 next or Final Fantasy 5 next. It's one of the 5s is what we're going to do next. No, okay, no Lake. Possibly no Lake today. Not during the day anyway. Maybe in the evening it may pass. Hope you feel better, Melon. Right, I'm going to head off. Have a good rest of your day. I might go back to sleep. I don't know. I'm still pretty tired. I can barely type. Oh, no. Okay. Maybe there won't be any like at all today. Right. I'm going to head off. Have a good day. And see you on Tuesday. Bye-bye.